Recorded music has been around since the 1900s, but over time we've gone from loading vinyl records onto turntables to having music at our fingertips with the click of a computer mouse. Different people have different tastes in music, not only in genre, but also in format. In today's society, we have many options of music formats. It would seem we're headed toward all music being distributed digitally through computers, but there are arguments that the digital future can't hold a candle to some methods of the past. Let's start from the beginning. In the mid-1950s, recorded music was mass-produced on grooved discs called vinyl records. Devin Tuttle is a music promoter, cassette tape distributor, and vinyl enthusiast.
There have been vinyl or groove records around for 100 years, from 78s to 45s and 33s. And vinyl actually seems to be the one format that is more or less stuck around.
Though it might seem outdated, enthusiasts and collectors like Devin seem to gravitate toward listening to vinyl records as a habitual experience.
Since I've been in 6th grade, I've really had a love for the vinyl format. It feels more like a hobby when I listen to music in that way, because it takes a little bit of effort to sit down with a record and just listen to it from beginning to end. There is just something about the physical medium that has this warmth and kind of a classic quality to it that people come back to, and I think that there's a collectible novelty there too, and people really enjoy that.
Kevin Freeman is co-owner of record store 641 RPM and discusses how records have been passed down from generation to generation.
People are always looking for things. You have the parents being like, oh, I remember this, and the kids being like, oh, my parents used to listen to this, I'm going to get the same thing.
Though records were in their prime up until the 1980s, after a lull in the 1990s, records became popular again in the 2000s. Originally considered a novelty item, vinyl records seem to be gaining popularity more as the years go on. Kevin sees advantages to the physical product of vinyl in the digital age.
People want a little something for their money, and at least with your record, you can throw a poster in there. You can throw colored vinyl or something, and you get to see it working. Even on like late night TV shows where you see a band play, they always show their record. They don't hold a CD up, and they definitely don't hold a download up.
Used records aren't the only items on record store shelves anymore. Many artists today continue to release new material on vinyl.
New record sales are definitely doing a hard compete with used record sales. If you want to decide to put it out on vinyl, I think you're more expected to now, as opposed to being a novelty like it was in the late 90s.
In the 1970s and 80s, cassette tapes were trumping vinyl in record sales. Cassette tapes were advantageous because of portability, a lower cost to manufacture, and more time allotted for longer albums. Though the popularity of cassette tapes was brief and was eventually surpassed by CDs, people like Devin Tuttle still appreciate cassette tape nostalgia.
It's like you're receiving a present when you get a tape, because it's like a little piece of art, and there are only so many that exist.
Cassette tapes have mostly died out, and CDs seem to follow the same path, though vinyl records appear to be making a serious comeback. Considering how fast-paced the world is today, there begs the question of whether this vinyl resurgence is only a fad or an opportunity for rebirth.
As far as the dying out thing, I think records are always going to be there because they've always been there. They've made it through the tape surgence of the 70s and 80s, and they've done with the CD thing, and now there's digital downloads, and I think they're going to hold their own against that too. Everything does go in cyclical things, and I can't predict if it's going to be a fad or not. I hope not. No matter what, there's always going to be enthusiasts for it out there.
In the 1980s, amidst the battle between records and tapes, a new invention called the compact disc emerged. Compact discs, or CDs as we know them, were the first digital media offered to consumers. As far as popularity and sales, CDs reigned supreme up until recently. CDs, like tapes, were marketed as portable physical forms of media. Because of CDs' digital ability, people were able to skip through songs rather than having to fast forward through analog cassette tapes. Taylor Briggs is a college student who chooses to listen to CDs over newer forms of digital music.
A CD is my go-to way of listening to music because it's less frustrating than having to deal with managing an iTunes. I'm accustomed to it. I've been doing it for my whole life, and I like the sound quality of the CD and the feel and the excitement of buying a new CD. I like the sound quality of vinyl best, but the convenience of the CD, I'm willing to compromise a little bit of sound quality, but I believe it to be a better sound quality than that of cassettes or MP3 player. It's fun to just go to the record store with nothing particular in mind and look through all the CDs and pick out ones you like.
Charlie Humphrey, member of national touring rock and roll band Holy Ghost Tent Revival, describes his attachment to CDs.
When I'm listening to music that I would consider my own, it is always by CD and almost 100% of the time in my car. And I think that I would say this is because I travel a lot. Driving to somewhere 2 hours away is the perfect amount of time to listen to an album 2 times through.
Records, tapes, and CDs are often referred to as albums. The term album in this sense refers to a collection of songs that are put together to be released as one whole piece. Charlie appreciates the concept of the album as opposed to the concept of purchasing individual songs on the internet.
CDs usually come with the idea that it's a whole album instead of going onto the internet and buying a single song. Bands put songs in a certain order because they want your emotions to go a certain way at a certain time. You put it in, and it's easier to listen from start to finish than switch it out if you don't like it or skip through songs. Some of the best bands in the world, like Beatles, Led Zeppelin, The Who, the Rolling Stones, they all had albums that kick you in the teeth from start to finish, and you had to hear the whole thing to really get the full experience.
At the time of their rising popularity, CDs were marketed as a smaller portable alternative to vinyl records. Being a physical medium, CDs often contain artwork and booklets within their cases, a selling point to consumers like Taylor and Charlie.
I like that they come with lyric books because it's important to me to really soak in the lyrics as well as the music. Looking for lyrics online can be frustrating because lots of them are wrong. It's a piece of memorabilia as well as music, so I appreciate that aspect of CDs.
The CD is a piece of art, it's a concept in itself, and that I think is why I like CDs. I have the whole album, the whole piece of art.
With newer non-physical forms of digital media on the rise, CDs are becoming non-essential to the point where artists will no longer release CDs. If there is a future for CDs, it will most likely be on a small scale.
I think that CDs are becoming a less effective outlet because people are listening to MP3 players more and more now. A lot of artists aren't even releasing music on CDs anymore. I believe in the future, CDs will continually die out. In certain circles, CD is a good format because easy to distribute and just more obtainable than a spot through iTunes selling music. I encourage people to buy CDs and listen to CDs. And I think that it's a good idea to have a hard copy of your music for security reasons. And I hope that the CD has a long future.
Since the millennium, music via the internet has growingly increased to being the #1 way of obtaining music. The most common form of audio obtained nowadays is MP3 files, which, admittedly, is lesser quality than that of a CD. Why suffer quality over music? Recording engineer David Hill has an explanation.
Digital music is entirely about the ease. I would say right now, digital music, quality-wise, is not in a good place, but people are pushing for the retailers to sell higher quality files. Most stuff is digital, and so it's still in its highest quality when it's in a CD.
MP3 files are downloaded from services such as Apple's iTunes. With iTunes, people are able to download individual songs for 99 cents as an enticer to only purchase songs you like. MP3s can be transferred to Apple iPods or other MP3 players, which serve as a portable music storage device that can hold a massively greater amount of content than any past form of media. Another rising form of digital music is online streaming. Radio services like Pandora and Spotify and video services like YouTube utilize streaming MP3s.
Internet radio, people are taking advantage of that, and YouTube probably is the #1 way to get to digital music.
Pandora Radio, www.pandora.com. Create a station. I did this today. I created Duke Ellington station, and it plays Duke Ellington, Louis Armstrong, plays a bunch of other jazz artists that are all like Duke Ellington. Pandora rocks.
Though the actual services that these websites provide are useful, Kevin and David explain the downfall of online streaming.
Quality, and that's changing all the time, and people's ears are getting used to thinking MP3 sounds good, and that's terrible.
Any kind of streaming quality is not going to be great, especially YouTube, or even Pandora and Spotify aren't much better, but the main issue I take with it is the form of payment to the artist. For an artist to make the equal amount of money as you buying a physical CD, you would have to play their whole album on Spotify every day for a year.
Payment to artists has always been a rising problem in the digital age due to online services and piracy. As a touring musician, Charlie Humphrey has his fears.
My band, Holy Ghost Tent Revival, we are not going to make a living by someone just buying one or two of our songs off of iTunes for 99 cents, and that's not what we want to do.
All imperfections aside, online music is still new and has its kinks to work out. As for what's next, the possibilities of what the future could hold are endless. Kevin Freeman has seen this all before and offers up some words of wisdom about the future.
Everything is kind of changing over to digital. I think inevitably the proof's there. Digital is definitely the way of the future. Not that it's going to eclipse everything and take everything else out, but we've got some awesome Rolling Stone magazines back from 83 and 84 talking about this new invention called the compact disc, and you can buy players for $1,000, and that was the wave of the future, and it's going to wipe everything else out, and that obviously didn't come to fruition. You can't say that that's the future, because then another thing is going to come right along.
Though we live in the ever-changing digital age, we still have many options when it comes to listening to music. No matter what your preference, in this day and age, we don't have to settle for anything. Which format will you choose?
As long as the quality is good, I don't care how people listen to it.
I'm a nerd for vinyl, and I'm a dork for cassettes. It's whatever you're into. Listening to music is a completely personal experience. I like music, but what really matters to me is that people make an effort to discover something new.
I'm Baylor Rossi. Thanks for listening.